have you on Informal Convos with Powerhouse. And I feel like it's been a lot of years, just like a few of my other guests, like Richard. Like I've known you guys for a really long time.
Forever at this
Uh, I
point.
know, right? What's unique about our connection was that I was actually in my transition from graduate school to my role as a full-time student, I mean, a full-time employee at Rutgers by the time you started. So um, let's just let you introduce yourself, who you are, and then we'll talk more about your journey to your PhD and what you're doing now.
Yeah, so I'm Ashley. Um, I was born and raised in Newark, New Jersey. So shout out Newark. um, I went to undergrad at Rutgers, as you mentioned. Majored in chemistry, very wild for anyone who attends
Yes.
Rutgers. People looked at me like I had 5 heads. People still look at me like that.
Right.
And then afterwards, I jumped straight into my PhD. I attended the University of Nebraska, Lincoln, where I just earned my PhD in chemistry in May. And my research focused on looking at diabetes drugs, so pretty much diabetes research. And now I'm currently at the University of Pennsylvania, where I'm actually doing sleep research and its effects with metabolism. And in May, I also started my own tutoring business.
All right, all right. Okay. So educated entrepreneur. Yes, let's get it.
Yes.
So so I feel like it would be a disservice not to talk about both aspects of your role now, both as a postdoctoral researcher and then also as an entrepreneur and someone who advocates for STEM education. So I guess in reference to your road to earning your doctorate, what was the most pivotal, or I should say, instrumental people or events that really helped you realize that you could actually accomplish something like that?
So for one, my sisters were always supporters in my life. So they were always like, their sisters went to college. They both now have graduate degrees, and they're just like, you could do this, you could do this. And like sometimes I'll be like, nah, I can't. Like I really can't, y'all. And they're like, no, yes, you can. So like it's always them in the back of my head. But like when it was like really just me at school, and I'm just like, oh snap, I got an orgo exam tomorrow. What's going on?
Right.
I remember specifically junior year going to one of my mentors, Stacy Artman. I think her last name is Blackwell now. But I went to her, and
Okay.
after I had an organic exam and a Calc 2 exam on the same day, and I was just like, Stacy, I don't think I can do this. Like this is it. I'm gonna go transfer out of chemistry. I'm not gonna do this anymore. And I remember Stacy going, Ashley, the first person who failed a course and still get into graduate school. And like literally that has stuck with me. I'm just like, yeah, I flunked Orgo the first time. I flunked Calc 2. It was hard. But look, here I am today. I still got into graduate school. And like if it wasn't for her at that moment telling me that, I probably would have changed my major and I wouldn't. So definitely
Right.
having Stacy there to help me through, like talk me through the tough times and be encouraging and compassionate, like that's exactly what I needed.
Yes. And I think you mentioned two things is like it's great to have a supportive circle, like family and friends, but it's often hard for them to know the extreme like anxiety or energy it takes to actually sustain that accomplishment. And having people who are potentially, whether they're advisors, mentors, or in your field that have seen people succeed despite that insight of being like, not just that I can do it, but it's been done before. Like, people fail classes and still become doctors. Like it's not about perfection, but about perseverance. So I guess like when you think about your time in Nebraska, as a Black woman in STEM, in chemistry, and going to Nebraska, like, I don't know if you can sum up that experience, but how did you necessarily like survive that?
It was hard, man. Like, I remember the first day I got there, one of my close friends who I graduated from Rutgers with and my fiance dropped me off, took my stuff inside my apartment, and then left. I didn't even have like internet, nothing. I had no friends, nothing. Like, I was sitting there like, oh, I'm really like in the middle of the country with nobody. Like, this is tough. But like when
Right.
I started school, like I made friends. And then just like being the only Black person for a while, like there was a guy who was in the chemistry department, but he graduated my first semester. But I
Yikes.
remember him coming up to me and going, "What are you doing here?" And I'm like, "I was thinking the same thing, dude. What you doing here?" And so we became close friends. And so slowly I've just been building connections with people. And then I want to say my third year, we had a Nigerian student join my lab. And so I was so
Okay.
excited. I'm just like, finally, it's people who look like me. And like, I was just so excited. And then slowly after that, they started accepting more Black students. And I'm just like, oh, look at this. We up here. We in
The
here, y'all. Like,
wave.
yes, it's a wave. Like, keep talking about this. We need more people of color doing chemistry. And like, it was just amazing. So being able to like, at first being like, oh snap, I'm the only one, to like, this is my community, you guys. Like, don't ever think that you're alone in this, because we all have each other.
There's the importance of representation and also like an active effort from the institutions that we're part of to actually finding diversified talent, right? But like for you, how has that inspired you for the business that you started in terms of your focus on STEM education?
I didn't hear the first part of your question. Sorry.
Oh, sorry. The internet was kind of fuzzy. Hold on one second. Is that better? Can you hear me? Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Oh, okay. Awesome. All right. So, I was saying, like, I heard in your story the importance of representation as well as the importance of um, the institutions that were part of doing an active part in actually recruiting diversified talent, right? And making sure that they're sustained in the pipeline and things like that. How has representation and also community played an important part into why you started your business?
For one, it's like, it goes back to history. Like, there's a stigmatism around like Black people not liking math and not liking science. And so to be able to help students, especially students of color, like overcome their fear of math and science, like that was my main thing. I was just like, I want students to succeed, but like, I want students who look like me to succeed. Like, I want to grow old and be like, oh, here's my doctor, and like my doctor's a person of color. Like,
All
I
right.
want my people to succeed as well. So I felt it was really important to be able to give back to the community in such a way, and have students realize that like, oh, like, I'm not in this alone. Like, all my professors are white males, and like, I can't relate to them. I relate to my students all the time. I'm just like, y'all, like, I've been there, done that. Like, I know all the
Right.
shenanigans you trying to pull.
Right, exactly.
So that really helps them, like, motivate them and encourage them to stick to the sciences. Because it's
Right.
one thing for like me to connect to them like in a way as a student, but for them to go on and go, well, yes, like Ashley was pivotal in my life, and like now I'm sticking with my major. So I've had plenty of students come back to me like, yo, you don't know, like, it was you who kept me in this field. And like, now I'm in higher up classes, and like, I know how to engage with people in those courses, and like, the imposter syndrome is no longer there for me.
That's amazing. And so I guess for the people, I mean, I know that you started a tutoring company. You want to talk more about the service in terms of how you're providing this support to decrease imposter syndrome and try to increase self-efficacy and their belief in their selves and ability to actually overcome the challenges it takes to persist in the sciences.
Yeah, so my services include like there could be one-on-one services, tutoring services, or small group services. And pretty much within this is not just like, oh, we're learning chemistry, we're learning math today. Like we're also learning other things that's important for college and for life, like time management skills, like communication skills. And
Right.
so I offer these services to students with hopes that like they are going to be engaged in their STEM courses, even if they're at large institutions in 300 plus people classes, that they're going to be engaged in their own learning process. And like I'm helping and encouraging their intellectual and their scholastic growth. Like I just want my students to be successful, like Drake said.
Right, exactly. That's all we trying to do. That's it. Okay. So like I guess one other area I'm curious about. You talked about your mentor serving as an encourager, specifically when you were at that point where you're like, yo, I think this is where my path diverges, kind of thing. But the role, as you know, Powerhouse is an advising and consulting company, and much of what we aspire to do is raise the um, or I should say, encourage the use of both advising, mentorship, and connection to help navigate like career and professional development. So, if you can talk about um, other, I guess, instrumental people like advising and programs that have been able to stretch you and also provide you resources and the importance of that played in your journey.
So Seb's EOF, shout out to Seb's EOF. Like everyone in Seb's EOF office is like my family at this point. Like they held me down since day one of college. Like
Yeah.
I came in, placed in low math, so I couldn't take chem my first year, and I'm just like, I took calc in high school. Like, how am I sitting in this remedial math class? I don't get it. And like, they worked with me. Like, they were just like, you just stick with it, stick with it. We know you don't belong here, but like, you could do it.
You could do it. You got to
So
get through it. Right.
yeah, they were just like, you got to do it because you got to do it. So like, they have been so important in like my entire journey. Like, ever since joining EOF in summer of 2011, like they were there. And then after that, they were just like instrumental in my life, period. Like they were just like, and now you're going to take solid gems chemistry. And now you're going to teach solid gems chemistry. And now you're going to tutor
Right.
for us. And like every summer after that, like it's just been a relationship with us. And like they really are my heart. Like I love them so much. Like they were understanding of everything that I wanted to do. Like if I'm just like, oh, I don't think we should do this like this way. And like the courses that I was teaching, they're just like, oh yeah, we can
Mhm.
try like doing it a different way.
Right.
So with that, I've also had also having advisors and mentors in an informal capacity.
Right.
So I've learned in graduate school that you just got to start reaching out to people because the people who there ain't gonna just reach out to you. Like you got to be the one to go get it. And so
Right.
I was at a virtual conference last year, and I was talking to someone about what I wanted to do after graduation, and they were like, "Oh yeah, you should join this program." I'm just like, "Okay." And so like I looked into it, and then I ended up finding a mentor at Georgia State University. Like we connected, and like I talk to her every once in a while, and our connection is like so great because she's just like, yeah, I also like grew up pretty much in a similar situation as you, but
Mm.
like I didn't let any of that stop me. And she actually introduced me into the program that I'm actually my postdoctoral fellowship is with, and she was just like, "Girl, just do it." And I'm just like, "You're right.
Really?
Like, why not?"
I'll do it.
Like really, why not? And so pretty much like my life has been, it doesn't really matter if like you're qualified for any of these positions or anything, just apply for it. Like my sisters say all the time, it's like people who are out there who apply for positions who don't meet the qualifications, but no one else is applying for it because of imposter syndrome. And then they get it.
Right.
So I'm just like, whatever, I'm going to do it.
Yeah. Go in there with that confidence. Like, and the
Yes.
thing is that I definitely agree that there are, like, I've been having this conversation for the past 2 weeks, being on hiring committees and stuff, for my full-time position. And it's always interesting how they come up with their job descriptions internally. And I would say the biggest thing that I have learned is that advocacy internally is super required to helping, like, stop those, what do you call them, like gatekeeping measures that are just rooted in racism and sex, all the isms, right? And a lot of
Mm-hmm.
times, like, sometimes there's like positions where they'll say, oh, this is a leadership position, you need to be in a leadership position to qualify. And you're like, so that
How you
means
looking
that,
for something like, how you want me to have it if that's what I'm looking for?
mind you, we're not talking about the president of the university. We're not talking about even a department chair. We're talking about like a program director position. And you're like, you want them, how are people, okay, so if they did everything, if they're qualified in every way, but they're not coming from another leadership position, they're not qualified. So it's very interesting. And that's why I do encourage students to, have realistic SMART goals and things like that. But there's sometimes you got to shoot your shot. And even if you don't necessarily line up on the paper, you gotta do it, because you don't know how many other people have restrained themselves from doing it because, like you said, imposter syndrome, I don't actually qualify, when in fact you have developed all the skills you need to be successful in that position.
Right,
So,
right.
so you took that chance. So now you're in Philly. Thankfully, you have come back to civilization. She survived
Love-hate
Nebraska.
relationship being back.
I know. I'm sure that rent in Nebraska was nice.
It was very nice.
Welcome to the East Coast. Back, I should say. Welcome back. But I guess right now, when you think about, as you're developing in your professional career, what are you hoping to do aside from obviously being an advocate for STEM education and actively participating in developing intellectual curiosity and sustaining them through, um, persisting in STEM majors, in college and such. For you, like, what are you aspiring to do with all that you've done so far? Like, where are you going?
So for sure, I feel like my whole life I thought I wanted to like just be a teacher, and it was just like, oh, cool, like go to school, get a bachelor's, and it's just like, oh, I want to teach at a university. Oh, go get this PhD, and then I had my PhD, and it's just like, okay, I don't actually have to teach at a university to like still be teaching and doing like what I love. And so I'm really up in the air on what I want to do next. I do know that I love teaching, and I also love doing research, especially one research that is helpful to my community. So my graduate research focused on diabetes. Diabetes affects
Mm-hmm.
a lot of Black and brown people.
Right.
My research now focuses on sleep disorders, and so like I actually suffer from a sleep disorder. So like being able to research things and connect to things that like will help me or my people in the long run, that's something that I really do want to do.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure if it's going to be like in the academia like realm,
Realm. Right.
but but yeah, I do want to stick with that. I've also just been speaking into the universe that I'm just going to retire a millionaire in about 12 years. So I
So
got to
whatever
get the ball
that
rolling
takes.
on that.
Okay, I see it. So the area of research that you are in is categorized as translational, right?
Yes.
So I feel like, for those that are watching, we hope that, a lot of people watch these videos on their own time. And so I'm trying to also be, informative in the opportunities that lie within different careers and stuff. So within translational medicine, I guess if you have to sum up like the concept of it, the role it plays, from bench research to society, how is it what like role do you play within translational medicine that is impactful to the community specifically?
So I'm pretty much looking at how different genes are, how your metabolism and different genes are going to affect like the way you sleep. And so this research that I'm doing actually gets translated directly into sleep studies that are done at, we have like one of the world's largest sleep centers here in Pennsylvania. And so it's real cool to get like samples from patients and see like, oh, this is what's going on in your body specifically. And
Yeah.
actually being able to connect with like physicians and them come up with like some type of medication that can help you in the long run.
Okay. All right. So the beauty of the degree that you pursued is the flexibility that it provides. And so you can go into teaching at a university level or lower, or create your own space where you're able to educate like you're doing with your business. But then also, and this is not necessarily like a speech to encourage people to go get PhDs. If you don't want to, don't do it.
I totally agree with that. If you don't want to, don't do it.
Don't do it, because
y'all, it's not easy.
It's not easy at all, right? But if it's something that is offering you the flexibility that you want, right? And so sometimes there are certain things we can fight, and then there's other things that we have to like circumvent, right? And if you want the option to teach in higher ed, then the likelihood is that for certain spaces, you're going to need that PhD in order to allow you in that room, right? And so I guess like for those who are contemplating continuing their education beyond the bachelor's, whether it's master's or PhD or professional school of some sort, but also struggling with, do I really need to do this to do what I want? What are some words of wisdom or encouragement or things that you should think about that you think have helped you clarify why you chose to do what you did?
It's all about the bigger picture. Like, what do you wake up, like if you wake up and you're just like, this is what I want to do with the rest of my life, then go do that. Like, for my entire life, I was just like, yes, I want to teach. This is what I want to do. And like the level that I wanted to teach at changed over time. But eventually I knew like, oh, I want to teach in undergrad. And so I knew I had to go get this PhD to even be open to the opportunities, or given the opportunities to even teach in that type of space. So
right.
Definitely look at the like your bigger picture. What is it that you want? What is it that's going to make you happy? And then go do it. Because there will be times where it's just going to be hard and like you're just like, oh, I just want to give up. And like there were plenty of times of that in graduate schools with me.
I'm
and
sure.
So, like, my favorite quotes, and it's actually, I don't know if you guys can see it because I got it put on a t-shirt, but
okay.
It's keep your faith larger than your fears. So pretty much like you got to believe in you, because if you don't believe in you, how do you expect someone else to believe in you? So you got to be your number one supporter. And of course, you'll always have your community in the background cheering you on. So do it for you.
Keep your faith bigger than your fear. Right. Exactly.
Yes, keep your faith bigger than your fears.
That's a strong statement. And I think a lot of times our fears can seem a lot larger than, but it's crazy because from a distance, it looks like this huge mountain, right? But as you get closer, you're like, oh, it's big, but it's definitely doable, right? And I think there's
baby steps,
baby steps, right? 100%.
Then you look back and you're just like, oh, I was stressed about that a year ago. Oh, that was nothing. Like I do that all the time. I'm just like, yo, remember when you stressed out about that? And like now it literally means nothing. Like you are here. Like at some point you have to realize that you are at the point in your life that you prayed about before. So
right.
keep going.
Legit. Like, so I'm gonna put a plug out for the new Mally music and Jonathan McReynolds album. And he said exactly that. Like, remember, the thing that you're complaining about is the same thing you prayed about. And
Exactly.
you prayed to be here and now you're complaining. So we've got to really refocus and make sure that that spirit of contentment and also perseverance and just being like having that faith outweigh that fear is really important. And so whatever your belief system is, it is really important that you find that center, because this voyage is can be long and grueling, but
Yeah.
it's definitely purposeful if you're connected more to your purpose and less to the actual goal you're trying to meet, that big picture, like you said. Ashley, it's been phenomenal. I think there are things that I obviously have known about your journey that I have an inside scoop, and I tell people all the time, like, I get the inside scoop because I was people's advisors. I have, been we've worked together, so I've seen those intermittent struggles and also the wins that come out of just pushing forward and pushing through. I really appreciate you coming to share your story with Powerhouse, and there are hopefully big things coming up in terms of
Yes.
collaborating with you and reaching out to communities, students of color, specifically in high school, and just trying to encourage that pipeline into college and persisting into science majors. I thank you for your time, for coming on, and I really wish you the best. You know me. If I can help, let me know. I'm not sure if I can in many ways at this point for you.
Nah, I always got my hands in little things that I'm just like, ooh, Zuri would be good for this one.
So keep me in mind. But thank you for taking out your time today.
Thank you, Powerhouse. It's been real. Like, I
Yes,
absolutely enjoy talking with you today.
awesome. I'm gonna put your handle in the description of this IG live. Also check out her website. If you know students in college that are looking for a tutor in chem, math, I believe math, chem,
Mm-hmm.
are like the areas, but definitely reach out to Ashley. She has inspired and supported so many students that I've seen be successful. So I'm sure that she can aid. And in our virtual world, it don't matter where you are, just hit her up. So
I got you.
right, exactly. All righty. You have a great rest of the day.
You too. See you later.